Good evening, everyone. Don't let the noise of others' opinion drown out your inner voice. When the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. Stand for what is right, even if it means standing alone. Well, these are some quotes said by famous people. Today, we have yet another famous personality amongst us who will enlighten us with her knowledge and experience. Miss Kashmira Jaiswal. She's the vice principal at Navrashna School at Vadodara, Gujarat. She's a recipient of the Global Leadership in Education Award 2016 from the Education Council of India, Fulbright Fellowship ILEP Award 2015, and the Pearson Teaching Award 2013. She is the master trainer for ASL for the CBSE and conducts training programs for secondary school English teachers of the community. Being a drama enthusiast, she writes and directs children's theatre and has many successful concerts in her repertoire. She's a skill development trainer for communication skills, personality development, soft skills, leadership skills, drama, etc. A passionate English language teacher, she shares a very good rapport with her students and alumni, strengthening the ever-cherished bond between the teacher and the pupil. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you so much.
Over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here on this platform. And here we are talking about amplifying student voice. So what is student voice? What do we understand with that? Let's demystify certain, explode some myths, learn something about student amplification of voice, and let's understand what we mean by amplifying student voice. So this is something that caught my attention the other day. The human brain starts working the moment you are born and never stops until you stand up to speak in public. Do you remember an incident like that? Like jelly beans, your knees turn jelly. And even at this age or stage, when we go up to speak in front of audience, and sometimes, the brain stops functioning and we zonk out. So in that zonked out zone, it happens to adults as well. And we are talking about little children, we are talking about teenagers, we are talking about, secondary students, from the tiny ones to the grown-up students. So what happens? Okay, so in this 1 hour session, the ground that we will cover, the objectives of this session are that why is there a need to foster speaking skills? What is the role of school heads, school leaders in amplifying student voice? How to empower our teachers to motivate students to be great rock star orators? How to overcome inhibitions and shyness for people who are a little inhibited and shy? Is there a need to amplify students' voice, and what is the need? Why is there a need? How to do it, and a little bit about my journey. So that's the kind of ground that we will cover today. Those are our objectives, and let's see how we progress. So beginning with this, so I go. So I'm a visual learner, and things like that attract me, and so. Is it easy is the question that I ask you. So as teachers, sometimes we think it's very easy. We don't get into our students' shoes. कि उसके लिए ये मुश्किल होगा. Because we do it day in and day out. So for us, it's easy. But is it easy for students? Is it easy for us to underestimate? We underestimate their anxiety. We don't get into their shoes. But let's ask the question, is it really easy what we are asking them to do? To be able to stand up and speak for themselves? And if it is even an iota of difficult, how do we get them to cover that ground of making it smooth and easy for them, right? So what do? We ask ourselves, what are they so afraid of after all? इतनी भी क्या मुश्किल है? कहीं खड़े होके कुछ बोलना, एक आवाज उठाना, इतना भी क्या मुश्किल है? That's what we ask. So there are a few things that we understand. They're afraid of making an embarrassing mistake. डर लगता है कि कहीं कोई गलती ना हो जाए. They are afraid of forgetting what they wanted to say. They're afraid that nobody would care. Whatever they want to say, people may not care about it. And at times, they are uncomfortable from being the center of attraction. They don't want to be the center of attraction. There are people who are shy. They don't want to be the center of attraction. So it could be anything, the reasons, it could be anything. They're afraid of making an embarrassing mistake. They're afraid they may forget. They're afraid that people will not care. And they are afraid that they may become the center of attraction. So these might be the barriers of communication, the barriers of for them to be rock star great speakers. So again, coming back to the question, till we dwell and clear ourselves, why is it so important? Because once we know that it's very important for us as leaders of schools, as principals of schools, as head educators of schools, once we understand that it is 100% important, बहुत जरूरी है, जब तक हम ये नहीं तय कर लेते कि ये बहुत जरूरी है, तब तक हम उस राह पे चलेंगे नहीं. We won't be able to transact that. So let's first clear that ground that it is of utmost importance. So here is this child who is saying, you mean I have to stand up and say something in front of the class? And I can already see his hands shaking. So why is it important? It is important for us as leaders and educators to motivate them to succeed, because it's important for their success, and that speaking is fundamental to human communication. It's important. Unless we speak our heart out, unless we speak our mind out, unless we speak the instruction out, it doesn't work. It's more important than written communication. So it is important. Now, yeah. So there is this Charlie Brown, and so this one is giving him an advice that I have 3 hints for becoming a good speaker, Charlie Brown. You must know when to stand up, when to speak up, and when to shut up. So at times, even we as adults do not know when is the right time to lend in that voice, when is the right time to refrain, when is the right time to stand up for a cause or stand up for something. Stand up here doesn't mean rise up from your chair, but stand up, speak up. Those are the things that we need to inculcate in ourselves, and we need to inculcate in our children. And so that is where I am introducing the concept of student voice. When to stand up for yourself and speak up. Here is where मैं वो बीज बो रही हूँ स्टूडेंट वॉइस का. ठीक है, तो हम आगे बढ़ते हैं. If, as you can see here, there is this one cow who's saying moo, and the other cow who's saying, I just said that. You use your own words. What does that mean? Oftentimes, we see students replicating each other. अगर एक ने कोई आंसर बोला है तो दूसरा उसको रिफ्रेज कर देगा, पैराफ्रेज कर देगा, सेम चीज बोल देगा. कि किसी ने एक ने आंसर लिखा है तो वो लोग कॉपी करके, so many people will be copying that. Somebody has written something, a speech, and 10 others copy that speech. Or people speaking, you ask them to say something, they will go on Google, they will do the search engine, whatever they are comfortable with, draw out things, and then go back and create their speech and say. This is what caught my attraction. There is this little note that a child had written. I just graduated from high school and I don't know the first thing about making a budget, writing a resume, or doing my taxes. I wish school had taught me those things. How do we teach these things? हम क्या करेंगे? महात्मा गांधी की स्पीच बुलवाना सिखा देंगे. एक declamation करो, या pick up a paragraph from President Abdul Kalam's speech and speak it up, or pick up a paragraph from Einstein's profile and speak it up. And so, are we really teaching them to speak out on topics that are relevant to their real life? Have they even got a voice for that? They will keep searching for that voice if we do not train them from their childhood. So that's how I come to my next point is about owning the talk, because this is what we train them to do. Look at that person who is doing a presentation. He is saying, for my presentation today, I will be reading the PowerPoint slides word for word. Why? Because he doesn't own his talk. And that's where the difference between rote learning and sharing your ideas, which is again, मैं थोड़ा पानी डाल रही हूँ वो जो मैंने बीज बोया था, speaking amplifying student voice का. I'm just watering a little by saying that it means sharing your ideas, not rote learning, not memorize a passage and do your inter-class competition, inter-house competition, or do a declamation or memorize a debate and go out and speak out that debate, purge it out. I am not meaning that by saying amplify the student voice. It means own your talk. Be the owner of your talk. It should come from your head, heart. It should come from your own creative mind. And so I have been a language teacher for the past 15 years. I've been teaching, and these are my experiences that I have now over the years evolved with these experiences. So whenever we have given them an opportunity to speak, we will come to what kind of topics, but let's form a general idea of how to, how have I achieved it over the years. Give them enough time to practice. If you've given them to research on a topic, create a content, give them time to practice, give them sufficient time, give them time to rehearse, let them understand if they are stumbling over pronunciations, are they forgetting important information that they wanted to include, do they understand the right kind of language, the tonality that they are putting in their write up, and give them feedback or correct any obvious errors. So be that authority, be that person, you're the go-to person for that child who will give them the correct feedback. So this caught my attention again. So there is this child who said, my teacher pointed with his ruler and said, at the end of this ruler, there's an idiot. And he spoke out something that he spoke out, and he got a detention after asking which end. The child spoke out, which end? And so the teacher, he got a detention. Obviously, for reasons obvious, but a child has the right to speak, right? And so if he is voicing his opinion or he is asking a question, let's give him the right feedback. So, second thing, ample and specific, objective, specific feedback, feedback that is relevant and applicable for his future presentations, and using a rubric for specific areas for improvement. More often than not, in our classrooms as English language teachers and trainers, we have a set rubric of us. For example, we say audibility should be good, or we say language accuracy should be there, or the content should be there. And so we have a set of rubrics for ourselves. We need to be able to spell it out to the student beforehand that these are the rubrics I'll be, you will be graded upon, or you will be evaluated upon, or you should be able to fit this rubric, and it should be given to him beforehand. And so that he or she brings himself up to that level. And so when the feedback is provided, he or she knows where, on which areas has he been pulled up for. Then create a positive atmosphere. This is very important. The classroom atmosphere and culture should be accepting and supportive. And so this is where a teacher's role comes in. And if you as a school leader are taking charge of a huge competition where you've taken charge of setting your students to go out abroad It's utmost important that you set some ground rules, that a display of disrespect towards the orator will not, because this is life learning. Tomorrow that child is going to be the executive or the chairperson of a board meeting, or he might be sitting on the other side of the table where his executive chairperson is speaking. If he doesn't learn to respect the speaker today, how does he learn to respect the speaker there in future? How does he know that there is some turn taking to be done? How does he know that there is a culture, a supportive culture that he needs to follow for the speaker? And so we as teachers, as educators, we need to ensure that attention is on the speaker and no other conversation, side conversation can take place. It makes the presenter comfortable. So while the spotlight is on the presenter, it is so important that we as facilitators should be able to, what do we call it, like कठपुतली की डोर हमारे हाथ में होती है ना, तो हम क्या डोर खींच रहे हैं और क्या डोर डीली कर रहे हैं वो हमारे हाथ में होता है. तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है ये कि हम एटलीस्ट एक एटमॉस्फेयर मेंटेन करके रखें जो कि कंड्यूसिव है, सपोर्टिव है फॉर द स्टूडेंट. एंड ये काम बहुत मुस्तैदी से करना चाहिए. We can't come up and say, oh, it's a big class of 40 students and I can't manage. So the speaker is having a ball of a time, the class is having a whale of a time. We cannot, there's no excuse for doing that. So we should be assertive and we should have that kind of a gumption to have a class where the presenter feels accepted and the audience gives respect. ये facilitators का काम होता है. So school heads can always encourage their teachers to be that kind of a facilitator. Coming to applause, just like I said, feedback to applause. So feedback and applause are close. Feedback is like a critique. It can be good critique. It can be you want the child to be improving upon some areas where he has fallen short. But applause be genuine applause होना चाहिए. It should be genuine. So genuine applause में मतलब क्या? सब खड़े होके ताली बजा दें, stand up like a standing ovation? That's not necessary. The student may have faltered, the student may have made mistakes, the student may have, fallen short somewhere. But if your audience is attentive and if they've asked one follow-up question from the speaker, that makes the speaker think, oh, I was heard, and then he's more enthused to respond to that query. So please encourage follow-up questions from peers. I do this even for my class oral presentation. Even for my class presentation, I do that, and I get at least 2 questions from the peers. So I know that the peers are listening intently. So listen with intent. I tell the class, you must listen with intent because I will ask anybody to ask a relevant question of what the speaker said. So I am balancing between both. I'm asking the speaker to be in the moment, and I'm asking the listeners to be in the moment as well. So encourage follow-up questions from peers. Establish to the class that it's okay to make mistakes so that they are not laughing or goofing around if an error has been made. And emphasize that everyone in the room is there to learn. So not only but if the speaker has something to say, the audience has something to learn from it. Because I have always believed in an idea. If you've got 40 students in your class and the speaker has an n ideas, so that n into 40 becomes 40 n ideas, and that is like a rich ground, a fertile, rich, what do I say, a fertile, rich field of ideas. That classroom can become like a Wikipedia of its own. So encourage people to be listening with intent, and because everybody in that room there is there to learn. So it's very important that when we are training our speakers to speak, we should also train our listeners to listen. Very, very important. And so variety, keep this interesting speaking activities. So more often than not, we do, like at the cost of sounding repetitive, a speech by Mahatma Gandhi or a speech by somebody and declamation and a life, or if I were to land on the moon, or if I were to become the prime minister for a day, so cliched, why can't we make the activity personal? Hold on to your thoughts while I come back to um, the later part on how to make it personal. But why can't we make it personal? Something that has touched my heart, an incident that moved me to tears, or an incident that moved me or encouraged me to speak out for that person, something, anything that has touched your heart or mind. Why can't we have that kind of a topic? Why can't we put the student in the driving seat and we tell him, okay, design your topic. Give me 5 topics, give me 10 topics, choose one from them. Why can't we have the student in the driving seat? Why can't we add a twist to the story? For example, if there is a class debate going on and you have 20 students on one side and the other 20 on one side, why can't we turn that debate into a rap debate? Why can't we give them kind of mid-tempo hip hop beat, and why can't they challenge each other lyrically, or in a rap? Why can't they do that? They need to speak out their voice. A rap is like speaking out a voice. So why can't we bring in variety? Is what I'm saying, to get them to bring out that voice that is not ensconced there, but is failing to come out, is looking for an avenue but is failing to come out. But why can't we do that? I'm sure we can as educators when we design our activity. And so then we come to the I I was sowing a seed of student, amplifying the student voice. So this is one big part of student voice, is our school's student council. So every school has a student council, and we have our leaders, we have prefects, we have uh, captains, whatever we call it, head boy, head girl, president, sports captain, cultural president, whatever. So all our schools have that. Now, why do we do that? I'm sure all our school principals, my respected principals who are here, they know that they have a very well defined set of purpose to create student leaders. Because these student leaders, today they are handling the student council, tomorrow they are going to defend the earth. They're going to defend the earth for us. So that council that we've created with great effort and passion, have we given them enough voice? Have we really made them as stakeholders of our school? Because student voices says, don't make decisions without us. Don't make decisions about us without us. Involve us. When students find ways to welcome student opinions and partner with students as stakeholders, they do a lot more than equipping students with tools for lifelong success. Beyond, they go beyond that. It's more than what they are learning in their 2 or 3 years of leadership training that they do in grade 10, 11, 12. When we allow them to become stakeholders, they learn so much that they become stakeholders of the country. They become stakeholders to uphold the uh, policies of the country, the nation. So make them the stakeholders. How do we do that? So how do we get student input? So this is what we do. Regularly solicit student feedback. So we need to get their feedback more often, and this we do through Google Forms, or we through polls, or we can do a one-on-one in a classroom, or we can do that in an assembly. But we do need, so for example, I changed something in my school canteen. Why don't I take a feedback? Is it working? Is it not working? Later on, if it blows up out of proportion, when they, there is a big ruckus about, no, we didn't like that policy that you put up for the school canteen, or the changes that you brought in the assembly structure, or the changes that you brought in the club structure. Why can't we take their feedback? Secondly, why can't we involve them in assessing and studying the school? For example, I want changes in the, suppose the sports ground. It's a huge school. We've got 3,000 students, and we want them to be using the sports ground at different timings. Why can't I get the student council to sit together and decide, plan out something that tells, plan out, say, sports club period or something where they can tell us and help us decide how do they want it, when do they want, to share the playground. Why can't we involve them? Why can't we have their voice heard? There might be things which they are looking, we are not looking at it from their point of view. So point of views are important. Why can't we have authentic student representation on leadership teams? We will have all the people in place, but do we have uh, authentic representation? Do we allow them to take decisions about, say, whatever post we've created? Why can't we invite students to discussions about their own learning? When we as planners are doing our academic planning, why can't we sort of take opinion whether they want a field trip to the botanical garden or the zoological garden, or they want to go to the numismatic club? Why can't we take some opinion from there? Their passions may lie somewhere else. If we are planning a educational trip, why can't we take their opinions? And lastly, consider young people as stakeholders and partners in the schools. So, at times, I have often suggested, even while we are recruiting teachers and we are doing demonstrations in classes, we can give up the demo forms to be filled by the students as well. They can give us wonderful feedback. So, in the running of the school, in the running of academics, in the running of co-curriculars, if we give them voice, the school gains, gets to gain. So these are some ways to welcome student input. We move on to defects, like I said. Defects of amplifying the student voice. On students, there are three. So they get life lessons, because when we give them the agency and the tool. Agency means the platform, whatever leadership platform they are on. Even if they are not on a leadership platform, we've just given them a project to do. So for the example, there is a lake outside my school, and that lake is polluted, and I got some children to, I've given them charge to, decide how they can improve that lake, how can it be clean, how can it be depolluted. So that's called the agency. And I give them certain tools. I give them, every Monday first period, you are allowed to meet, you're allowed to chart out a plan, give me your plan of action. We will allow you, a bunch of students, to go out and speak to the municipal commissioner, or get there with gloves and dustbins and garbage bags and whatever. So whatever is your plan of action. So that little thing that I allowed them to do, it gives them tools for life. They can handle larger projects when they go out. Secondly, they become change agents because they have learned how to bring about a change, because they are engaged as active partners, and they've developed a set of strategies because we allowed them to create their own strategies instead of sitting and telling them, you will do this, you will do that, and you will do this. We allowed them to think, design a set of strategies. So they owned those tools and strategies, and so they can later contribute to future communities and countries and continents at large. And thirdly, lasting bonds develop when we do this. I am sure as principals, you would have had 10 years back a head boy coming in and telling you, ma'am, that project that you put me on, it has stuck on with me till today. I love doing that project, and that has been the best project of my life. I am sure they would wish you on every Teacher's Day and tell you that is something that is very close to my heart. So, those are the lasting bonds because we've allowed them to speak for themselves, we've allowed them to connect with us, we've allowed them to maintain lasting relationships with us. So, this is the effect. Giving students that kind of involvement, and then life lessons, they become change agents and they have lasting bonds with us. Now, effects of amplifying student voice on schools. ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ स्टूडेंट ही गेन करता है, डेफिनेटली स्कूल भी गेन करता है. तो स्कूल क्या गेन करता है? Lots of general reforms that come in. Oftentimes we may say, oh, they are students, they don't know teachers को कितने problems होते हैं, administration के कुछ we have our own limitations, and but give them a chance and tell them your limitations. They will work around it. They will work their way around it. So the reforms that are initiated with student input are likely to improve the learning environment for all students. Coming batches, not just those involved, but for coming batches, those reforms are lasting. And secondly, we as schools get to develop a very good alumni base because we have developed lasting bonds with them. So the students who feel appreciated and they feel supported, they typically feel connected to the school community. And so we are not struggling to develop that alumni base, and they automatically come back and connect with us. Those are the good effects of amplifying student voice on schools. And so exploding the myth of them saying, do I have anything to say at all? मेरे पास तो कुछ कहने के लिए है ही नहीं. So there is this cartoon clipping that caught my attention. So bark, he's saying at an eco point, and the bark is coming back to him. And so Garfield says, that's because nothing you say is worth repeating. So am I saying something new? Have I something to say at all? I have a lot of new inside me. I have a lot. I just need an avenue to get that new inside me. I do have a lot to say. Everybody, student, teacher, leader, my 4th grade employee. एक बार सर्कल टाइम में बैठ जाए ना हम, बहुत कुछ निकल के आता है. But हम circle time कितनी बार करते हैं? How many times do we sit in a circle time and talk to our, class, our leaders, our student council? And so here is something else that, So this gentleman is standing up at the podium and he's saying, I'm speaking with you this evening without the benefit of speech writers or teleprompters. So thank you and good night. Because he doesn't have anything to say. So when someone else writes your speech, this is, oh my God, it is so dangerous. You pick up from somebody else, you pick up somebody's thoughts, you pick up somebody's ideas, you copy somebody's speech, and you don't own it, right? So it is so important that when we design activities for them, it should be coming from their heart, it should be touching them passionately. And so he just says good night and thank you. And so the essential skills for speaking confidently, I'm just coming back to it because as teachers we do it all the time. I'll quickly go through it because we are going to go into how to do it. So have a confident body posture, make eye contact, speak at appropriate volume and pace, naturally. So there are some mantras that we can use for them, like the Goldilocks principle, not too loud, not too soft, not too fast, not too slow. And for older students, how to vary your volume and pace to make your points more effective. So this is what we teach. So suppose these are the mantras that we form. ये हमारा एक format हमने बनाया उनको सिखाने के लिए कि आपका posture ठीक होना चाहिए, आपका eye contact होना चाहिए और आपको वॉल्यूम और पेस का ध्यान रखना चाहिए. फॉर अ स्टार्टर ये 3 छोटी छोटी बातें स्टार्टिंग के लिए ये हमने अपना एक सेट सेट ऑफ रूल्स बना लिया. इसके बाद क्या करना है? So we have to teach this skill. So we created a set of rules that you have to be audible, you have to have a confident posture, you have to maintain eye contact और आपका पेस बहुत नहीं होना चाहिए, nice and slow. Once we've set that set of rules, we want to teach the skill. How do we do that? We introduce the skill to them. And so we introduce our set of rules. We do some interactive modeling for them. So they learn how to, because they love to ape their English teacher. And so at times they will also learn, if the teacher has an accent, they will learn to speak like that. And so they love to copy. That age is like that. So we introduce the skills, we use interactive modeling, and then we practice the skills with them. And then we create a platform for them. So how do we create a platform for them? Classroom में हम लोग बहुत बार करते हैं, हमारे English speaking activities होती हैं, orals होते हैं, when we have to ask them to speak. ASL में we have to do the speaking listening thing. We do that all the time, but we need to give them plenty of opportunities to do that. Create a platform for that, which is non-graded, non-evaluated. हमेशा कम से ज्यादा मार्क्स के डर से बोलना जरूरी नहीं है, because that's not the only platform. We should give them open platforms to speak. We should give them open platforms to think. Get them in pairs. You can think pair share. Get them in groups, partners, small groups, whole class. Create various types of atmospheres and platforms for them to speak. So we defined a set of rules. We did some interactive modeling for them. We created a platform for them, and we created a solid support system for them. How do we create a support system? We provide them ongoing support. We create visual reminders, whatever is our set of rules, bulletin board पे लगा दिया, classroom के corridors में लगा दिया, school के corridors में लगा दिया, and use reinforcing language. वो जो teacher language कहलाती है ना, critical नहीं, assertive, clear, concise, positive, not negative. Positive, clear and concise language that helps them overcome their mistakes and move towards positive changes in their speaking. So that's the kind of support system we as educators, you as school leaders who can encourage your teachers to do for the, get the entire student community to become rock star orators. How to create a conducive environment. So that is what, when I was saying circle time, it's a very interesting activity. When you sit in a circle, you throw the ball around, you let everybody get an opportunity to speak. So make meaningful connections with the topics and have meaningful topics. The child should be personally invested in the topic. Create topics like that. Give them an opportunity to get, this is what they want to speak about. They will be personally invested. Keep them engaged and motivated to learn and research. Research. Tomorrow you should come with 10 points on what you want to speak. Research on that. Give them a safe space to practice. Give them an assurance that language is not a barrier. It's okay to be bilingual at times, unless it's an English test. Unless it's an English subject, English language test. It's okay to be bilingual. It's okay to speak off in your language, because your thoughts are important that you want to communicate. Your idea, your creativity is more important that you want to communicate. And if you are passionate about something, it will find a way out. Your thoughts will find a way out like the flow of water. So give them something that they are passionate to speak about. Give them an idea that they want to share with the world. So please create conducive environment for them. And so I'll share a little bit of what I do with my students. There are a couple of things that I do with my students. There is a TED platform. I've been a TED educator for a couple of years now. So I'll just share some student voices that my students have spoken. So this child is a 7th grade child, and hear him out. We have a TED club in our school. I'm the leader of that. Please hear this child speak.
Hello everybody, this is Dheirya Abani and I'm here to present my talk on how reading can change our life. Our life. Wow, what an amazing era we are living in, where whatever we want or wish to have can happen with a click of our fingers or with a touch of our hands. So, for most of the people that I've met or seen in my life, especially my friends, they're all interested in our e-world, that is our electronic world, whereas they're not interested in our t-world, that is the traditional world, where we used to see, touch, smell before buying anything. So, I'm like, what's so special in our e-world that's not so special in our t-world? Even I thought e-world is the best. Why do we need t-world? But why did I say that? Because it helped me connect to my friends. It allowed me to release stress by ventilating on social media. But then I got to know disadvantages, like it limited our imagination, made us addicted, made us more of an indoor person rather than an outdoor person. Now I was stressed doing this and needed a solution. That's when reading came into my life. And it was a good.
Okay, I want to share with you this a couple of more videos we'll just look at. Different ideas that touch their hearts.
Hello. This is never ever to become Dr. Bhumi, wishing all my patients a very good day. Dear patients, we all suffer from a very common disorder, namely intemperate contemplating disorder, commonly known as overthinking. Now, let me share with you a story of mine. So, last summer, I had a severe stomach ache. The standard dose of paracetamol I took didn't work. So, with the hope to find a temporary cure, I googled my symptoms. And according to the great Google, I either had appendicitis or stomach cancer. Well, I couldn't restrain myself from thinking about it the entire night. I even imagined myself in the operation theater moaning with pain and whatnot. So I shared this with my parents and they immediately called the doctor. And the doctor suggested me to get a sonography along with a battery of blood tests done. The reports were in my hand at the end of the day. Opening the envelope, I took the reports out. Understanding not even a single word, I handed it over to the doctor and boom! All the anxiety on everyone's faces was dissolved with one simple sentence that my reports were all normal. And the trouble I might be facing must be because of a gas problem. Cancer and gas, yes. Well. Now this is something.
One last, this child has been the head girl of my school last year. So you must hear her.
Let me begin by asking you all a question. What is it that you see in the newspapers quite frequently these days? Well, what I'm talking about is very less mentioned in the headlines, but still, what do you think about it? As for me, it bogs me up and it makes me restless. I hate it when I'm told that I cannot do much about it. What about you? Well, once I was having a conversation with my mother in this regard, and she narrated something that took place at her office. A female colleague of hers was molested by one of the male bosses, and almost the entire staff of the department was aware about this fact. But again, to my much surprise, it only took my mother and 3 of her colleagues to speak against this boss. They filed a petition against the incident to the HR, but obviously, just as it happens in our country every single day, every single time, the petition was overlooked simply because there were not enough number of petitioners. But it was a matter of ladies' dignity, respect, and pride. What if something like this happened with anybody else in the office? And my mother replied, the boss, he would still go unnoticed. But why? My child. Nobody essentially cared about that, you know. the dignity, the respect, the right, nobody ever did. And if somebody was there, how much? 4 out of 40? Everybody is too busy with their personal ambitions. They did not think it was their responsibility to speak for the lady.
Okay. I'm sorry I brought you back. I don't know if you were enjoying, but these have been my students who have, every year I have a TED club, and there's a bunch of students we get to, there's a bunch of students that get to design their talks and work on their talks. So where is this? Yeah. So there are many other, so like I was talking about my journey to how to encourage. There are some other things that we've been doing. Those are in STEAM and design thinking areas. So it's not only speaking as in a speaking scale, because TED Ed is definitely a platform where students talk about something that really touches their heart. So as you've seen, they've all chosen their topics. Other than that, I also design speaking opportunities in science, technology, engineering, art, and math kind of a stream, and design thinking stream. So here is an example of what we've done in our school. So our school is very our school encourages encourages innovation and design. That is Navrashna Education Society is a very encouraging fraternity for innovation and design. So this is what we did. RISE was for innovate, speak out, and express. So they designed their innovations in the fields of environmental conservation, or in the field of community health, or in the field of science and technology, any which area that touched their heart. A group of 4 students got together, chose their project, designed their project, implemented it, and shared it out with the world, and it brought us great results. So speaking out, amplifying the voice is not necessarily, I want to, again, at the cost of reiterating, I want to reiterate, it's not only your extempore or a debate or a declamation. It's not only that. It's a lot more beyond that. You can get your children to actually think of what they want to speak about, own their talk, and then express it out in the world. They can do it individually, they can do it in groups, they can do it in pairs. But it's very important that they speak out what they are very passionate about, what touches the core of their heart, and so you will see how amplified their voice is. And so we are coming back to a full circle now. And this says public speaking and presenting. This is what a child has said. Look, when I was researching on this topic, I found this. Public speaking and presenting is like ripping off a band-aid. It can be painful and unpleasant, but it has to be done. It can be painful like ripping off a band-aid, but it has to be done. That's the beginning of public speaking for a child. He'll be jittery, he'll be scared, he or she, and they will have their jelly knees, but it has to be done. And for that, it has to be done factor is where you and I and the teacher kind and the school head kind are going to be there, standing like rocks of Gibraltar behind every student speaker. I am there for you. Go ahead and share your voice out with the world. If you falter, if you make a mistake, I'm there. Is what being a facilitator who can actually help amplify students' voice. So it is a win-win situation when students see the presentations as opportunities to showcase their hard work and show off their knowledge and passion, rather than as a painful but necessary hurdle to overcome as a class activity. If we've been able to do that, that speaking assignment is an opportunity for the child to showcase his hard work, showcase his knowledge, showcase his passion. If as a teacher I have been able to do that, it's a win-win for me and the child. So that's what I wanted to tell you, because all the great speakers were bad speakers at first. Nobody was born a good speaker. But that's where our role comes in. That's where we fit in. Yes? So that is what I am leaving you with, the food for thought. Do you have anything for me?
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. That was really insightful. I have learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone has. So, ma'am, we got a few questions, though the feedback has been really, really good. Everybody has appreciated what you said, in terms of bilingual languages, using bilingual language, and freedom of expression, involving the children, in the school. So everybody has appreciated, and we have been getting constant messages from across the country. So really we are thankful to you that you brought this up about, just a few questions before you go, ma'am. I'll read out those questions to you. So one is, most of the children develop cold feet on the stage. Why is it rampant in metro cities?
Oh, I think I would like to explore this myth here, because this question would have come perhaps from an educator who's in the metro city. But cold feet are more rampant in also small towns and small villages and cities. And I think over the talk we've discussed, people get cold feet because they fear that they may not be able to remember. They fear the very third slide that we, if you want me to pull out, we can pull it out. This is where we discussed why people get cold feet. Yeah, because they are fearful that they may make an embarrassing mistake, or they may forget what they need to say, or there's fear that nobody would care, or they are uncomfortable being the center of attraction. So many a times these are the reasons, or they are just dispassionate about it.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. That also reinforces the point that you made in the beginning. So the next question is, how can we make students use English without compulsion? I mean, what would make them use the language willingly?
Willingly. Oh, yeah. So the schools, good English medium schools these days, definitely ask their students to only communicate in English, and it's the need of the hour, because we have a responsibility and we have a commitment to, what I tell my children to think in English. It's a very cliche thing, but yes, we will have to have some ground rules set, and if we give them opportunities that touch their heart, if we give them opportunities and ideas, then some ground rules, maybe levying a fine, or some ground rules. We have peer buddies. So in our school we have buddies. So if somebody is speaking, found speaking another language, the buddy is there to help or remind. So these are tiny little things that we do. So a language buddy would remind you to talk in English, because if it's the order of the day, and things like that. So yes, that's a good idea if you can implement. Have a buddy who will remind you that you need to speak in English in a classroom setting.
That's great. That's great. So the next is, how to inculcate creativity in speech, how to overcome stage fear. So I think you've answered the rest of it, the how to overcome stage fear, but how to inculcate creativity in speech is something that people are asking.
Okay, so creativity is something that is in my core. So I follow a lot of. It's to be creative means to be innovative. To be innovative means to be indigenous and yourself, right? So whenever we give them something to, so like I said, if you give them something that will touch them personally, they will have to be indigenous about it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you give them a prompt that will need them to be telling their own story, it will come creative because they'll be creative about it.
Because then they'll feel about it, right? They'll be
Not,
passionate
not
about
only
it.
they'll feel about it, they will be creating their own story.
Okay.
They will be creating their own narrative.
Right.
You are not asking them to, research a narrative from the web or the Wikipedia. You're asking them to create their own narrative. And so it automatically becomes, creative.
And that too,
So
there is no restriction on the language that they can use, right? So eventually they should learn the language, the English language, right? But yes, so when it is, about expression, they can use any expression for that matter.
Yeah. So it depends on the task that you're doing. Suppose it's an English language class and you ask them an English language task and you're going to grade them on their speaking skills. It's a different ball game altogether because they have to use that language. But when it comes to amplifying students' voice, and when you have them as stakeholders and they need to express a strong point as a stakeholder of the school, then I think language should not be a barrier.
Then I think, ma'am, I read one of the comments that had come in that what about the ego of the super stakeholders? So when the children take on the stage, then what about the educators? So is there somewhere a clash between their egos or something?
Of course, it's always going to be there because we are three pillars of the school: students, parents, teachers, and the management, the empowering body that manages us. But we have to find a common ground always, because that is what negotiation is, the art of negotiation is all about.
Right.
It has to
So
be found
all about collaboration and bringing stuff together. So for a common objective.
Yeah.
Great.
To get the center of the Venn diagram.
Right. Absolutely.
To get to the center of the Venn diagram.
You have put it really well. Thank you so much for that. So, ma'am, the next question is how to involve their views regarding feminism, sex education, etc.
Oh, it's a very good question though, because it embodies what I always vouch for. Why not? Why not talk about feminism? Why not talk about LGBT community? Why not talk about sex education? Why not talk about it? Because why not break those barriers? There, somewhere down the line, with or without your help or guidance, students will be communicating about it, having set some ground rules that it should not go beyond, to the bordering obscenity, and having set some ground rules in a setting. Why can't we let them speak it out?
Right.
Once we've set our ground rules that we will not border on anything that is disrespectful, anything that is obscene or unacceptable, why can't students view that with or without our help? It is going to be a conversation. Why can't we be moderators of that conversation? Why can't we be moderators of that conversation?
Yeah.
And help them air those skeletons out.
Right. So I think, ma'am, we have answered largely all the questions. There were a lot more, but they were all relatable. So I had just culled out a few questions from there. So thank you so much for everything. I'm sure this is just the beginning. A lot of questions have been answered. There were a lot of things that were there in the mind. Schools do, a lot of things. But yes, I think this is the beginning of yet another, journey for the children. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming here and enlightening us. It was our pleasure having you. It was a pleasure having all of you also here. Thank you so much for joining.